Welcome, everyone. It is absolutely great to have you here for this explainer. Look, if you're watching this, you probably already know process mining software is just a phenomenal tool, right? It uncovers the actual realities of how your organization runs. But, well, like any powerful tool, it's not just about having it sitting there on your computer. It's about how efficiently you wield it. So today we're focusing entirely on working smarter, not harder. We're going to unpack exactly how you can master your process mining software to maximize both efficiency and control, pulling directly from the system's core capabilities. Let's get into it. So let me ask you this. Are manual updates and isolated workflows completely draining your time? Seriously, think about it for a second. How much of your day is spent literally just trying to get the right people to look at the right data? Or, waiting around for a dashboard to catch up to reality, watching that little loading bar crawl like a snail? Ugh, we have all been there, for sure. These administrative bottlenecks, they are the exact opposite of what process mining is supposed to achieve. But the good news? Thankfully, the software has built-in solutions to eliminate these headaches completely. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with sharing your project safely. Next, we'll look at automating your data updates. And finally, we'll cover the incremental refresh advantage. All right, Section 1, sharing your projects safely. Now, process mining is pretty much rarely a solo endeavor. You really need to be able to freely collaborate with your colleagues all across the organization. But, and this is absolutely crucial, you must maintain strict control over your data's integrity. When sharing, the system actually offers two specific roles, and understanding the distinction here is key. First, the viewer. This is your default. Users assigned as viewers can, look at the process and explore all the analytical data, but they can't actually alter anything. Then we have the co-owner. I like to think of them as your co-pilot. They can help fly the plane, meaning they have permission to do almost everything within that project, but they absolutely cannot change the flight plan. Basically, they can't change the underlying data itself. It brilliantly protects your source information while still giving you that deep, hands-on collaboration. And what's great is that from the very start, the moment you decide to share a process, whether that's as a viewer or a co-owner, the system handles all the back-end admin for you. Sharing automatically grants your colleague the process mining user security role, and if they aren't already in the environment, it instantly adds them. So no way do you have to send a ticket to IT just to let a colleague view your dashboard. It just happens immediately. It's a real game changer for collaboration. So the crucial point is, and I really want to emphasize this, especially for the IT admins tuning in, what happens when you stop sharing? Well, if you remove a user's share access to a specific process, it does not remove them completely from the environment. And actually, it doesn't revoke their process mining user security role either. To completely remove them from the environment, you must use manual intervention. So while the automation works wonderfully for granting access, revoking global access requires a very deliberate manual step. Make sure you keep that vital security caveat in mind. Moving right along to Section 2, automating your data updates. Let's talk about getting the machine to do the heavy lifting. If you are currently hitting that manual refresh button, oof, you are likely experiencing a highly resource-intensive process. See, it pulls in literally everything with the latest data from your source, and depending on the sheer amount and complexity of your data, it might take several minutes or even much longer. Every single time you manually refresh, you run the risk of system lag, tying up your memory, and honestly, just wasting your own time sitting there waiting for the screen to update. But to eliminate this manual intervention entirely, you can set up an automatic refresh, and it just takes 3 simple steps. First, go ahead and locate and select the Refresh Settings button right on your data source pane. Second, in the Schedule menu, simply toggle on the option that says Keep Data Up to Date. And third, specify your frequency. You can set it to update, say, a certain number of times each day, maybe every week, or even every month, and you choose the exact time the process should start. By doing this, the whole shebang stays perfectly updated, and you never have to click that resource-heavy refresh button during your active working hours ever again. And that brings us to Section 3, the incremental refresh advantage. Now, the absolute insider secret to optimizing your resources is understanding the default behavior here. By default, your scheduled updates are set to what is called a full refresh. This means it updates all of your data from the source. Think of it like this. Imagine you're reading a massive, multi-volume encyclopedia. A full refresh is the equivalent of basically rereading that massive book from chapter 1 every single day just to see if a single new paragraph was added at the very end. I mean, sure, it works, but it's incredibly inefficient. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast between these two methods. While a full refresh updates absolutely everything, An incremental refresh updates only the data that has recently changed. So, for example, if you have a massive multi-year data flow, you can set it to refresh only the data from the last 5 days. Going back to our book analogy, an incremental refresh means you literally just read the new pages that were written since yesterday. Much better, right? And this brilliantly illustrates how making that switch closes massive efficiency gaps. First off, the refresh occurs significantly faster, simply because it's only processing a tiny fraction of the data. Second, it is much more reliable. You no longer need to try and maintain those fragile, really long-running connections to volatile source systems, the ones that often time out or just crash during a full refresh. And finally, because there is simply less data to process, you drastically reduce your overall consumption of memory and system resources. Honestly, your software just runs smoother, faster, and much more consistently. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought. Is your data working for you, or are you working for your data? By intelligently utilizing those viewer and co-owner roles, scheduling automated updates, and of course, making the switch to incremental refreshes, you basically take all the friction right out of process mining. You stop fighting the software and start letting it actually empower your insights. I highly encourage you to open up your environment today and apply these efficiency and control features to your own workflows immediately. Thanks so much for joining me to master these concepts and keep learning.